please ask us questions whenever they show up. Like, the whole model of how we do school now is kind of just-in-time delivery of ideas or content. So instead of us talking for 25 minutes, you're like, oh, I had a question on something you said 15 minutes ago. We've missed that chance to make that connection. That's how we aim to teach as well. So we want this to be as much like that as possible. All right, if you don't know that there's a strategic plan, here's the link. At some point, right, Amanda, this will be on the webpage.
It is on there, yeah.
Okay, so, like this presentation. So, this was created by a partnership between community and admin. And so some of you are probably part of that, because you're people who are involved with lots of stuff around here. So, the vision, community united, empowering each other to learn differently, care deeply, and aspire to excellence. That's pretty straightforward. And our mission, we deliver exceptional academic programs and services that challenge the mind, instill the joy of learning, and promote responsible citizenship. At a number of meetings, I've heard a bunch of people say things like, well, my middle schooler doesn't really like school anymore. Full disclosure, I don't think middle school kids have self-reported to love school much of history, right? Like, this is a kind of common thing. And then once it gets cool to kind of like say school isn't cool, that builds. So I think if you talk to kids one-on-one, it's a little bit different than when you have like 15 middle school kids or high school kids in a row. You know, that tends to change. So, but we still need to do that. This is our mission. So if we're not hitting that target, we're gonna find ways to hit that harder. Any questions on any of this? I bet I yield. All right, so the strategic plan has 4 main goals. We're not going to go into all the nitty-gritty of all the strategic plan today, but we'd like to show you today how we think, we're pretty confident, that by using the Summit Personalized Learning Platform, we hit these 4 goals. So future-ready focus, soft skill development, human technology balance, and social emotional supports. So those are the 4 things that we're kind of, we think this is why this program's so good, hits all these things. At some point, Melanie, when did this become state?
Just this summer.
So this summer, the state of Ohio has said, hey, this is super important that these are official standards for the state of Ohio. So we're, I would say, slightly ahead of the curve there for how many districts are doing by acknowledging that we have to support students not just with academics and content, but we also need to have the social emotional side of things. You want to do this? Or we keep going?
Oh, I'm sure. So, how do those 4 goals align with what we're doing in the PLP? So the first one is a future-ready focus. So within the PLP, basically what our major units are considered.
Thanks, Adobe.
There we go. Basically the major components of the PLP, for those of you that are familiar, for those of you that aren't, are projects. And working within those projects and producing activities that are performance-based and not necessarily a Scantron sheet, multiple choice test, that's a part of that future-ready focus. A lot of times they're creating tangible artifacts. I know in English, that looks like an essay, that might look like a presentation, that might look like a discussion. In science, that may look like an actual model of something, but they are producing actual tangible things. And there's a combination of individual and group work, just as we are mimicking that in future environments for them, where they're gonna go into a space where they will have to work individually on tasks, be self-directed, self-motivated, but then they also have to collaborate with other people in their job. The second one is—
Hold on, I want to say the project. So, a little bit of grading, just to show you how important projects are right now. 80% of the students grade in their core courses, 6 through whenever people still use it. 10, I'm using it for AP Bio, so whatever, are the project scores. So they're great. And these aren't like projects that happen at the end. These are projects that you're working on constantly, that you have a lot of guidance from your teacher, like teacher's gonna help you go through those. So This is different from last year or previous years, but in the past it was 70%. Now we're gonna have 80% of the grade is going to be based on projects. And it's not like, hey, here's a project, see in a month, come back to me and show me your diorama or your poster or whatever. These are projects that are highly scaffolded. And we're gonna walk you through some of this with the demo site, what they look like.
Also, during that time, the teachers are walking around. We're building small groups and doing direct instruction on different levels for that. So it's not where, we turn them loose and they just go do their work. It's not at all. And Carly and I teach together, and we are both walking around the entire time working with students.
Yeah, like my favorite part of my room is my podium, because I just set my computer there and then I just go and do my thing and I'm just walking around, and I wheel it sometimes with me and like, oh yeah, let me check, So I love that part of it. It keeps me up, it keeps me, engaged with the kids. So soft skill development. So soft skills are not necessarily like academic skills, like knowing how to, use a math formula or knowing the periodic table elements, but it's more things that are features of your, your personality that help you in tough situations, or like I was talking about before with self-direction, self-motivation, the skills that you develop, but you can't necessarily be taught them, but you have to be given opportunities to develop. So the way that we do that within the PLP are through projects, mentoring, and focus areas. So within those three components, students are given opportunities to develop those skills. Now, there is frustration, there is, oh, I can't do this, but that's a reflection of learning, in our opinion, to be frustrated and to work through something and have grit and perseverance versus someone who just kind of sits back and is like, I got this, right? Because they're not really growing, or they're just kind of demonstrating what they know. We have students reflect quite a lot at the conclusion of their projects, but also throughout, how do you think you're doing here? What do you think you're missing? How can I help? They have a chance to revise and edit many, many times. We give them feedback. We all can commiserate with the list of kids that are like, I just want you to tell me how I did right now, But we are constantly giving them feedback throughout the process. Just as we aren't asking them to produce something at the end of a period of time, we're working with them in producing that with multiple attempts, multiple drafts, multiple opportunities for us to say, oh, we need to fix this, you need to tweak this.
So, I wanted to put something, are you done with that?
No.
Old school education, when many of us were, and I don't know how many of you are educators, but I'm guessing that you feel this way. Old school is kind of like the teacher gives a lesson, and then you sort kids by how well they absorbed that lesson. Like, that's how it used to be. That is no longer acceptable in education. Like, legally, it's not acceptable for kids, who have IEPs or WEPs.
There's a big push for inclusion, and that's what we hope that this will meet all students.
Yes, and so now we don't just stand and say, this is my lesson on one day, this is my lesson on Tuesday, this is my lesson on Wednesday, and on Friday, see how well did you pick up on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. There's a general project that kids are working on, and then individual students will need individualized supports throughout that. We're not gonna go through it today as much, unless someone asks a question, we'll do it later, but we have the ability to use data for how kids have been doing to make little groups. Like, okay, your group's rocking, your intro paragraph is fantastic, but I gotta help you with your conclusion. Or, you guys are struggling with the intro, let's pull a group together here, and we can work on that. So this is a very big change in how education works today, and this allows us to do it unbelievably efficiently. I don't have to go through and chart all the data and go through a gradebook and see who's struggling and see who's successful where and when. I have a tool that does that for me. And that is the part, unless you're deeply involved in education, that you don't know that what we're required to do now. Like, you're required by law to do this for kids with IEPs, but morally we should be doing it for everyone. Like, everyone everywhere should be giving what they need at the right time. So that's part of all this soft skill development, is they're gonna make a mistake, and we're gonna be like, okay, now you've got 60% done. Let's rock the remaining 40%. So that's kind of the idea here, because a lot of people are like, well, they just get to do it more than once. Sooner or later, kids should hopefully be like, man, if I just do it like once well, that's a much more valuable use of my time than doing it poorly 15 times. Some kids really love the poorly 15 times approach. Like they will do that until the cows come home. That's where, as parents and as mentors and as teachers, that's where we have to like, listen, dude, you're making bad decisions here. Let's help you change the way your decision-making process. So that's a huge part
And
of why we
yesterday
do
when
this.
Sorry, Annie.
No, go.
Yesterday, when we were meeting to discuss what the presentation was gonna look like, I talked about how when we were doing the strategic plan, I was part of that committee, soft skills development was a big topic. It was preparing them for the real world, and in the real world, you will receive feedback from your employer. You will be told how to do something better. Like, I am an educator, and through our OTES process, I'm always being told, like, okay, this is something you need to do. You need to be able to receive that feedback, implement it, and be able to do that. And so it was really interesting and not heartwarming, that's not, I feel like this is really preparing my daughters for when they go into the real world with that type of, I really think that meets that part of the strategic plan, so.
Yeah, I taught high school for, this will be my 15th year, and everyone's favorite thing to do is to get that worksheet off of their desk and into yours and never have to think about it again. And that does not in any way confer knowledge.
And kind of with my students who've been in it for a couple of years now, I see them applying these schools to other aspects of their life.
Yeah,
Projects and scouts and other things as well.
Cool. And that's the point, is this is only one setting of their life where they're gonna have to be productive, so the more that we can help them in other settings, like you said, and have, transference of those skills, that's what we're here for, I believe, in school. So that hit the nail on the head with that.
And if anything we're saying up here, you don't feel that your student is getting, contact the teacher, contact the mentor, contact whoever you need to get. This is what we hope to be having. Different teachers are at different levels of comfortability with this right now. So someone might be missing something because they're just like, oh yeah, I didn't know I could do that so easily. Or they might, so I'm not saying that to like out people or get people, but like that's our goal. I am not perfect at this yet. Like we're all trying to get there, but it's.
That's also where the collaboration piece works, because as an intervention specialist, I design instruction to help build executive functions for students. So I know I work with the 9th grade team very closely. That's what we do. We talk about ways to meet challenges in the classroom. It doesn't mean they're on an IEP, 504, whatever. I help whoever, it doesn't matter. We wanna just give the best support and help our students grow in that area.
So number 3 is the human technology balance. Our classrooms really don't look that much different than they looked before we used the PLP. We have times when the kids are on the computers, we have times when the kids are off computers, we have times when they're working independently, we have times when they're working with a group. So we try to balance that human technology balance. There's days in my class where they don't even open their computers. There's days when they have their computer kind of setting aside and they're collaborating with someone, and then they go type something on there, and then they go back to talking with the person. It's kind of like us being in a meeting at work, and we're kind of taking notes, but then we're listening and we're communicating and we're being involved in it. We still use books, we use labs, lots of debates. They'll create models, they'll create posters, they'll do presentations, they'll do videos, a whole mix of things. The other part of that is there's a lot of choice for them. It's not every single person is going to make a video on, because everybody doesn't want to make a video on that, and everybody doesn't learn the same way. So what's going to benefit me might not benefit somebody else. So lots of choice for them. The mentors help the students organize their time and their work. So we meet with the students, and we have a group of students that are in our mentor group, and they'll be with us the whole year. And we build a relationship with them, and we try to help them to prioritize what do you need to work on, how can I help you, how can your other teachers help you, and we work as a group to do that.
You should be getting, yeah.
I just wanted to, if you could touch on too, just, I know you did in our original meeting that we had, but about mentors and just that, like, it's not just teachers that are on the PLP that mentor, there's
Yeah.
teachers that are off that mentor.
Yeah, there I know the data. Melanie can tell me like how many teachers aren't. So that's, I think almost every 6th through 11th, 12th grade teacher has a mentor group. Not all of those like the PLP is only using for the core courses. So Mr. Sabalskis is a mentor. Like he's a fantastic mentor. You know, like he's a rock. I mean, he gets kids. Like he knows how to manage our groups. He's the band guy. If you guys don't know. So, in the mentor group, that teacher, by using the platform, the teacher can meet with the kid one-on-one. Middle school, you guys are doing once a week, is that the goal, or?
The goal is twice a week, cause we added the communities in.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sorry, not twice a week.
Twice every two.
Thank you.
Once every 2 weeks. So, we try to meet with kids one-on-one for a fairly, like, you and I, for 5 to 10 minutes. How you doing? What are your goals? You set goals. Your goal, by the end of last week was to master this focus area or complete this checkpoint. How are you doing with that? And also the mentor should be having the kids send a email home every other week. Is that, you guys do every
We
other?
do once a week.
All right, once, so once.
Sixth grade
middle-
students will send an email home once a week. I believe we did Tuesdays last, year, but once a week, letting you know, taking a screenshot of their homepage, telling you what they're working on, what their goals for the week are, what they need help with. And the email is actually sent to you, and I'm carbon copied on it as their mentor. And all sixth grade students do that.
How many times does a sixth grader have a mentoring class?
Every day,
Okay, but they don't meet, they might go there for how long?
30
minutes.
But they don't necessarily meet with the teacher every day.
No, but it's like,
So,
we.
if it's a study skill, like a study, it could be like a study.
It's kind of
session.
like, depends, different people run it slightly differently, and I don't wanna speak on behalf of middle school, maybe you can do that. But like in high school, a lot of the kids, like, if you're on a super hard schedule, yeah, chill for 30 minutes, like, I'm totally down with that. If you've got a lot of work to do, I don't expect you to chill, I expect you to sit in a corner and, get your stuff done. So since you know that person, we have about 15 people, you know who needs to get their act together, and you know who's like, hey dude, you're rocking, go over here and just keep on rocking, for a while. Yeah, I don't know, like.
We also have students who use that as a time, I'll have a couple kids, like in my mentor group, that are maybe struggling with a concept, and while I'm meeting with students, one of the other students who's kind of rocking it is like, hey, I'll sit down with them and help them, and, so they kind of talk through it and work together on it, and teach each other, which they actually love. So sometimes they're working in small groups, sometimes they're working independently, sometimes they're meeting with me, it just depends on the day and what each student needs.
And yeah, go ahead, Lori.
I was gonna say, and, we do have students who refuse to send those emails. So I'm pointing that out because if you don't get that email, there's a breakdown somewhere. And a lot of times, I'm not saying always, but a lot of times that student is refusing to send that. So maybe support from home, support from mentor, we can help that communication, work together,
Yeah.
so.
I would say if there is a early disconnect,
Let
I
us
would,
know.
I would reach out to the mentor and say, hey, mentor,
Let us know.
I'm not getting these emails, why am I not getting these emails from my kid? I will, with ninth graders, I'll say, no one's going to lunch until all the emails are sent, and ta-da, emails are sent in like a minute and a half,
Yeah.
Like, these aren't hard things to do. I'll out my own ninth grade boy, he hates, like my wife and I are trying to teach him how to manage emails. This is a skill we all know that you have to get good at some point in your life, especially in high school. Email is a useful, necessary form of communication. So I'm trying to teach him that over the summer. He's getting stuff from his soccer coach, he's getting, he'll get stuff from his teacher, do what you're right here. Like, you have to know how to do that. So that's a part of a skill that we're developing starting in sixth grade, is we'll learn how to communicate with the email. There are some parents who are like, I want my email to say, dear mom and dad. Like, I'm totally down with that. Like, there's nothing wrong with learning how to write a professional looking email. Back in the day I taught in Strongsville, someone sent me an email needing physics help, and it was from Abraham Lincoln. I'm like, I don't know who to help. I don't know who Abraham Lincoln was. Like, that's not a professional way to email your teacher. So, like, those are skills, the kids need to be taught this, because if we don't intentionally do that, then when would they pick it up? So, they know how to do Instagram, and, none of them do Twitter, so I'd say, like, no. So, Snapchat, but like, we need to teach them this. So that email home from the mentor, that's part of this human technology balance. How do you use technology appropriately? How do you learn how to communicate? For those of you who don't know yet, the kids who have Instagram accounts, they'll have the official Instagram account, like it's like @AndyGrinning, whatever, and then they have their Finsta, which is the fake Instagram account. That's intelligent. Like, you're not putting stupid things out there under your name. You're putting under there at like PokemonGo.rocks.com or whatever. I don't know. Like, you're having separate. That's an intelligent thing to do. I'm not supporting Finsta accounts, but we know they're out there.
Yep.
I have a question
Yeah.
real quick. So I was just thinking, like, had I not been here today or I'm a parent out there that doesn't know, then do you guys, like, when the sixth grade, just because we have when the sixth graders come in, do you guys, would you guys be giving parents, like, do they kind of get like a, I don't know, like, here's what you need to know, like, you need to know that there's like an email coming home, that you should expect an email
Yeah.
home once.
There's a meet the teacher night also.
Okay.
And so at the meet the teacher night, we kind of, go over what should you be expecting, what,
Okay, that's
and
good.
then, most of us also, send home for our specific subjects, a sheet that mine's required to be signed, not everybody requires theirs to be signed, but, that kind of goes through the breakdown of what should you expect in science this year and what will my child be doing. So, the paper's handed out earlier in the year, like first couple days, but, we do go over that information at Meet the Teacher Night.
Also, Jess, in the Fast Fives that go out for middle school, you know, they're tailored for each one. There's usually a section on some of it that's like how to talk to your child about this, what questions to ask, you know, if you're not getting this. So those are always helpful and those come out weekly. I always read those to refresh what I should be doing and probably not, so.
We aim to end every session with exactly that, Kelly, with exactly like, how do I help my kid?
Right.
Like, how do I click through to help my kid? What do these different things mean? Because there's like the big scale, what the heck's going on in Fairview-ish levels of concern, and then there's the small scale of like, dude, I get all this, I don't care, I just wanna know how to help my kid thrive. So like, we will have the big approach and we'll have the little approach for each session, so we hit that. Cause sometimes it's just like, dude, where do I click to find the grade? You know, like, so we will show you all that.
And I encourage that communication with your teachers, like, and spread the word, like, if you don't know or you're confused about something, just send us a message, any way you can, like, we want to help you better understand this.
And a great point of contact for sixth graders will be Mr. Higgs.
Yes.
He's awesome.
Everyone loves Mr. Higgs, like, you know, he's a superhero for every part. So he is the
What's the name?
Jeffrey Higgs.
At Fairview Dutch.
J. Higgs at Fairview.K.org.
He,
He was the principal
I
at
don't know if you remember with
No, I think,
EEC.
I think that's when Connie took over.
Yeah.
Oh,
Last year was,
Oh.
the sixth
I'm
graders was
thinking
in
of
last
last
year.
Okay, you're right, you're right.
Yeah.
So you will, like, his whole mantra is be kind. Like, you can't have a greater human.
Is he OA again?
He's sixth grade OA, so
That's how he ends his class every day.
he's
Be kind.
he's so genuine. Like, he's just so real, so. Maybe I have a man crush on him.
Pardon me for interrupting.
No, always interrupt.
So what is the main form of communication with parents? One of my challenges is that Leo's, I'm sorry, I shouldn't talk about my son, but anyway, book bag is like a void that goes to a third dimension, like paperwork just never comes to me. And so how do we stay informed, not dependent on the students?
So,
Or is that an expectation of?
no, like, we're not releasing sixth graders to be like, hey, you're your own person now, go and, fend for yourself. So, the good news is, for his 4 core courses, the vast majority of the management of the work is digital. And so it stays, like, the big issue all of us in education has had is kids would do the work and they wouldn't turn it in. Now that's impossible, like, it's there, like, so.
You can't lose it.
They can't lose it, like, they might not know where it's at.
And a lot of
digitally.
times, if it's a paper, something that they're creating, we have them take a screenshot of it.
Yeah.
So that's how if they lose it, you have a picture. Did you take a picture? But I'm always like, don't forget.
We do lots
So-
with like taking pictures on a computer, if they have a phone, like those things, like.
They'll pose with it, like, hey, here's
So-
the word.
Yeah, it's fine.
Your students should have less paperwork,
Yeah.
right? Because that is a serious concern.
So log into their Google Docs or their Summit with your child. I would even, say, let's log in together and, you can see the work there.
One thing that helped me, Elaine, with I'll bring up my kid's name since you did, I'll trade you.
Thank
We
you.
have the same issues, for sure. And he was 7th grade last year, and Mr. Garcia actually was a big paper user in math, and that was our problem. He would do the work at home, but there was like a vortex that happened between school and home, and we would lose things. So he would do the work and have to keep repeating it. So just talk to your teachers to work out mechanisms, because those executive functioning skills can be really tough. And so one solution we came up with was he's just gonna leave his math notebook in class. Mr. Garcia had a drawer, Liam knew where to go. So I think the more that you're seeing those pitfalls, if you reach out to your teachers, we all collaborate to find those solutions.
Yeah.
And the intervention teachers are, email an intervention teacher. Even if your child doesn't have one, it's fine. Just say, I'm struggling with this, and I know this is something you work on. Do you have any good tips for this? Absolutely, that's what we wanna do.
When in the day, just out of curiosity, does this mentor class
I
fall?
wanna show the schedule.
So, depending on
Before
the
or after?
schedule, before or after.
Lunch.
And that's like
Right
every
in the middle
day?
of it.
Everyone-
Except Thursdays, which we have communities,
Yeah,
sorry, I
yeah.
didn't mention
Which are
that.
awesome.
But
Yeah.
communities are where students get to pick, what specialized group they wanna go to, and each teacher runs a specialized group. So, there's the kindness club, there's drawing, there's reading, there's
yeah.
the Pinterest club,
Getting better
right?
at the Pinterest club.
And we switch them up. Like,
Yeah.
The kids will, some of the kids will say, hey, we're interested in fantasy football, so a teacher will do a fantasy
Yeah.
football group, it's.
Mr. Weird's group gets real big during that
It's
time.
really cool.
Or paper
And
football
it's a
team
time,
group.
unless we're using technology, it's a time where technology should be put away completely.
Learn how to talk to people.
So,
So, the schedule question, it is slightly different this year for people who have kids returning to middle school, high school. Mondays, you see all of your teachers. You'll have periods. Middle school kids do not have first period unless they're crazy awesome at music in their band or something, I don't know. So, there's no middle school, first period. You'll see all of your classes, right? Lunch and mentoring are outside the numbered schedule. So they are not a 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. They are lunch and they are mentoring. So if your kid has lunch first, they'll have lunch and then they'll have mentoring. If they have mentoring first, they'll have mentoring and then lunch. And that's every single day. So every day you'll have, you see there's 2 lunches. One of those lunch is a
That's
mentoring.
on the website? like,
Yes.
you can print it
Yes,
out?
and it's an updated one, because
Yes,
these
because
times.
they're-
These,
Now we're ending
Is
at
that the new one?
3:25.
Oh, yes, it is.
no, this is the, yeah,
Yeah,
this-
this-
Yeah.
so,
But Monday's 3:10.
and Tuesdays you'll have even classes, Tuesday, Thursday even, Wednesday, Friday you'll have odd classes.
Mr. Bricka sent an email before he left for the summer
Yeah.
with the new schedule as well.
Yeah.
So if anybody, you know,
And-
can't
and
find
we're
it,
gonna
but wants
be
to
getting used to
email
it
it or whatever,
too,
let me
so.
know, cause
It only
Will
changes
be-
by 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's true, it's just shifted.
It's switched, it's shifted because there was a timing issue with around lunch.
Some of
or
it was
whatever.
about-
It was 5 minutes of.
So, you guys might not know this, but like, when do we find out if our kid has first period? Cause that
Most
affects our
sixth
family.
graders, if they, I don't know any sixth grader that's ever had a
06,
first.
yeah.
It's more
No,
so high
it's
school
only-
elective
yeah.
or-
It's only-
Bands, they had a special,
But sixth graders
choir.
won't.
Sixth
It's
graders
usually
will not
high
have
school,
first period.
But that would be a reason that they would come in for that first period.
Like, I'm sure your kids have first period. 'cause
Yeah,
they're
there's language,
heavily
that
involved in
gets,
music.
some sections of language are run during.
I've
Yeah.
never known a sixth grader to have a first
Yeah,
period.
I don't think
so-
they scheduled them.
No.
Going to Polaris, they might have a first period.
We use that first period time, that's when the teachers collaborate, that's when we get together, we'll get together as grade level teams, so Laura, Carly, and I will get together and talk about, hey, what's going on in ninth grade, we have to help Andy with something, what's his deal, then that's where we can figure those things out. We'll also meet together with, curriculum groups, so I'll meet with Kristen and talk about, hey, let's get some science, let's make sure science makes sense, you know, like, what are you doing in 6th grade through 12th grade that, you know, all supports each other. And then there's other times where it's called innovative planning, where we meet with people you don't normally meet with, to come up with ideas. How can I work with, you know, the government class to align with a project I'm doing, you know, like, so those kinds of ideas. So we have, this time is mostly teacher time, except for like band choir, since those teachers are spread all over the place, and orchestra, they tend to meet in those mornings, for high
And
school. for high
as the
school.
year progresses, we also offer, office hours in the morning, which those days will, like, we kind of start out earlier with like 1 day a week that
It's
is
Tuesday this
office
year.
hours.
Tuesday.
Okay, and then we add on as we see necessary, which that ends up being a pretty, at least with 6th grade, it's a pretty popular time to come in and get some help, like with your teacher, or maybe take an assessment if you've prepared notes and you wanna do it in the morning. 6th grade, it's pretty popular to come in for the office hours if they're being offered.
I sometimes go through, well, it won't be the cafeteria because that doesn't exist anymore. But I go down to wherever kids are gathering in the morning, knowing, like, when we have office hours, there's kids who just want to chill with their friends. I'm like, I know you want to chill with your friends and all, but like, 20 minutes right now could be super beneficial to you to
Take
getting
some
caught
notes.
up.
Yeah.
So I try to convince people to go to office hours on Tuesdays. Any other schedule questions? This is a huge change from.
I have, I don't wanna interrupt the rest
No.
of the
That's okay, no.
Okay, so 8:35 is start time then,
Yeah,
for my 6th grader?
yes.
So like, where does she goes right to her second period?
Mhm.
Yes,
First
we
period,
will.
second period
Yeah.
class.
Yeah,
Okay.
second period or third period, depending on the day.
Depending on the day.
And they'll learn it,
They'll
I
get
know
it.
it's really confusing, and we really help them, we're in the hall saying like, today you're going to third period first, go to your third period class.
Why would they?
Because
Oh, 'cause
Wednesday
Wednesday,
and
okay.
Friday, they're following odd periods, so they're gonna start with their third
Okay.
period.
And there's a day where they can come pick up their schedules, I don't know when
Are
it
they
is.
on Power School too? Aren't they gonna be?
Yes.
up?
Yes, they
Okay.
will be.
And they really walk them through it those first weeks.
Yes.
Everybody.
And they're
goes
not
through it.
penalized like for being late, so,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of, the first day, they're like, I'm late, I'm gonna get in trouble,
No.
we're
No
like,
big
no, you're
deal.
not. We're not worried.
You said there's 2 lunch periods.
It's
Yeah.
So
a,
how does that work with like the middle school and high schoolers? I mean, you said there's no cafeteria?
No, it's in the middle school gym now.
They
So the
eat in
cafeteria is
So
in
the middle
gym.
schoolers eat, they have 2 periods.
They're
Middle
separate from the
school-
high school.
Right, so middle
Yes.
schools have 2 periods and they're always in the middle school gym, right?
Yes.
Slash
Yeah.
cafeteria.
and sixth graders do mentoring first and then lunch.
The fun thing is the 7th grade and 8th grade, all the high schools, they're gonna be just as confused as the 6th graders this year because nobody knows where the
rooms
building
are.
is.
Yeah.
But in like a year from now, it's gonna be a palace.
Everyone's just gonna be
We'll
walking
all
around.
Yeah,
figure it
Tracy.
out together, it's
Yeah.
okay.
It's fine.
It's okay.
The same question, I guess, about the morning. So like, when do most 6th graders get dropped off? Like, I was gonna have my kids come and eat breakfast there in the morning, but
They
I don't
can do
wanna
that.
drop them off like too early, so it's like, you know what I mean?
I guess it would
Because
depend
the
on how
email
long
says
the
like
school
7:15 you could drop your kid off, so I'm thinking 7:30, 7:35.
if you
but
go
that's an
back
hour.
to
That would be a long
middle
time.
school page,
I
know.
mean, I guess if it was me, if they were getting breakfast, I might drop them off like around 7:45-ish. That way they have a good half hour to eat. They don't get released to their, well, no, I'm sorry, new.
That's still an hour though.
They,
Oh, no,
no,
45
that would be
minutes.
like 40, yeah, like
Okay.
45
Slow
minutes,
down
so
just a little bit.
it gives them plenty of time.
There's some notes right there on the middle school homepage in regard to when students can come in and where they go.
Mhm.
And then just so you know, 6th grade schedule pickup and cookout is gonna be August 28th. Mr. McHugh will be sending out an email and I think maybe a postcard in the coming week on that.
So Amanda, for the cookout, they'll get their schedule at the same
Yes,
time? Okay.
yes. Tentative on building walkthroughs depending on construction
Yeah.
schedule.
Okay.
So just know that they may not be able to walk through the building yet at that time.
But it will be up on Power School like you, sometimes
Yeah.
it pops up someday and you'll know because all the kids will be.
Everyone will find
Everyone will
out.
be tweeting out their schedule.
Who's gonna go?
Well, the good news is there's really not a lot of choice. Like, if you're in 6th
You're
grade,
gonna be for science.
you have to do science, like,
It's just no matter what.
it's just
you're
when,
in.
it's just when.
Exactly.
Or what cool other classes did you get? I won't go into how cool the Polaris classes are yet, but they're awesome, they're very cool. You 6th graders can't wait to take them. All right, the last bit here is, so our strategic plan involves social emotional supports. The level of kids from when I started teaching till today who talk about anxiety is astronomical change. Absolutely unbelievable. It is the biggest challenge for me in education, bar none.
Yep.
I've heard, you know, you probably have kids, maybe some of yours do, like one of my kids, super concerned about where he's gonna go to college, that's the 7th grader, the 9th grader doesn't care at all. So, like, there's kids who are like freaked out about these things, and it probably isn't you. It probably isn't us. A lot of this comes from the outside world of, oh my God, you have to go to college, blah, 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 all these kinds of anxieties. There's so many things. We recognize this, and I'm super happy and proud to be part of Fairview, a district that provided the mentoring, provided social emotional supports in, for part of our school. So this is super, super important. I know for a lot of students with IEPs, we write self-advocacy goals. Like, how do you learn how to do that on your own? I love my children dearly, but I do not want them to live with me forever. At some point, I want them to go out into the world, hopefully go someplace cool that I can visit. So that's the self-advocacy part of this. The self-advocacy, this is why Summit created Summit. So they were a school out in California, and they could get kids into college, but they did not have the grit to stay there. And I used to teach upper level courses in Strongsville. I had the exact same issue with my students. We could get them into school, but they didn't have the grit to stay there. They didn't know how to manage themselves when they don't have a mom and dad, a teacher, or someone there, to prod them and say, did you do this? Did you do your laundry? Did you turn this in? Did you get a syllabus? Like all those kinds of things. That's the real overarching goal of a lot of this. Content's on our phones. Like we don't have to like know who Napoleon was, right? You don't have to know those things. But you have to know how to find good information, be responsible for yourself, and that's that big self-advocacy piece. It's not just for kids in IPs, it's not just for kids on the other end of WPs, it's for every child. Every child need help to figure out where they have to go. And that's through all parts of this. In the project, you have to figure out how to pace yourself if you're struggling. Your teacher and your mentor will help you. That's with mentoring. Go to find an adult. Sometimes your mentor is not your perfect connection. Find that person who is your perfect connection and figure out what's going on. We talked about communities before. Lori runs a middle school. Gay Straight Alliance community. I run a high school Gay Straight Alliance community. Sometimes those kids, we're not their mentors, but they'll tell us, hey, what's going on? I need help. I need to be an advocate for myself because I'm struggling with something. And then the focus areas. The focus areas, this is the piece where the kids are more on their own than the other parts of the class, at least in high school. Is that true for middle school as well?
Yes, although in 6th grade, especially at the very beginning of the year, we do a lot of hand-holding with that because it's a lot of teaching them even how to take notes. How do I watch a video and take notes on a video? How do I take notes that are gonna be useful for me on that focus area assessment? So in 6th grade, we tend to do a lot more hand-holding, and then we kind of slowly take away those supports to let them be successful on their own. Now, obviously, some students need those supports a little bit longer. Some students kind of take off with it really quickly and don't need them as much. So it just kind of depends on the student, but 6th grade, we offer way more supports on those focus areas, and then as they get older, it's more, you know how to do this.
We still review, I mean, in ninth grade, we still have a number of kids that are struggling with effectively taking notes. They wanna write that entire PowerPoint slide down. That's not a good use of time, so we certainly review those and pull them back as needed. And again, there are still those students that this may be something that goes into second semester that we have to talk about and review with them, but we are there to intervene. We are certainly not leaving a kid, okay, you're good, and just, and we have so much data, we're so painfully aware of where these kids are and where they're at, and they know, and we can talk about it. We could say, hey, I know that you're behind here, or you still have to do this, or whatever, and the fact that we can talk about that transparent, have a transparent conversation about their progress is awesome. They don't just point to that grade and go, I don't know how that got there, click, 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 click. Oh, here's all the things that, we still have to do, we still have to work on, so.
And a nice part of the platform, and we'll show you this in just a little bit, there's a section called Learning Strategies that you can have your student open up with you, and it walks you through how to do Cornell notes, how to have a conversation and do a Socratic seminar. I forget some of the other ones, but there's
I have a link to that here.
There's a whole list of cool stuff that you could practice at home with your student, and it walks them through it. So we'll show you that.
Can I just ask in terms of, and I have a memory of this and I could be wrong, like, the first few days of school, it's not like you're throwing computers at them.
Yeah.
Right?
We're not on there.
They're not even on.
Right.
Like, we can't get them, they have to have attendance for a certain number of days before everything syncs from Power School to Summit anyways. So you go over, I do a lot of things about understanding patterns in science. It has zero to do with the computer. It's just, I get to know my kids, I get to know, these are my expectations in a classroom. This year I plan on, with the upper level kids, having them create the expectations. So a lot of that is super traditional. It's exactly what the first couple days of school would be like, especially for these incoming 6th graders who are nervous, because this is weird. This building is big, it's weird, it's a complete cluster of how do I get around right now? So the 6th grade team is super cognizant of that. They are unbelievably well adapted to having kids move from this building to that building. And so they're excellent. One of the things
The kids actually say to us, because we mentor with them and we sit down with them, well, how's it going? They're like, this is a lot easier than I thought it was gonna be. I was so nervous coming in and it's not really that big of a building. So, I know that right now their anxiety's high about it and they're kind of freaking out, I don't even know what to do, but feel better in knowing that when they do come to us, after a few days, they're like, I got this.
My favorite comment last year, so my son was in 6th grade, and I asked one of his buddies, Jackson, who I've coached in soccer, and I'm like, Jackson, how do you feel about school? He's like, I have so much freedom. I'm like, dude, you're in 6th grade. You just told me you had freedom in your education. But that's how they have the choice, and they have a little bit more flexibility. And believe it or not, 6th graders will adjust to this.
You have a question?
Yes.
Right here. Did you raise your hand? Yeah.
I did, thank you. When you say take notes, are they handwriting their notes or are they doing it in the computer?
Studies
Okay.
have shown that handwritten notes, exactly, and it stays up here much longer than typed
Unless
notes.
it's a specific thing that, like, I have students that have to type because
Right,
of
part
some
of their voice
graphic
structure,
kind of
We-
disability, but
Mhm.
there's some exceptions, so that's why I just kinda wanna point that out. Some
I-
students have that in their plans.
Got it.
I strongly suggest to, because you'll talk about OA, they teach typing, none of these kids know how to type very well. Strongly suggest speech to text for use all the time. Andy Slack's not here, he's the 9th grade math intervention specialist. He wrote his PhD like this with his feet up and spoke to his computer, like he wrote his thesis. Like, because we evolved to speak orally, not digitally. Like, so let's use that. And the kids, I'm like, no, this isn't just for like those kids, this is for all kids. Like, you are a much better communicator when you talk, right? So we do it on our phones. Ask Alexa, ask Siri, okay Google, like, why not use that? Like, my daughter hated writing, hated writing. And I showed her speech to text, and in a day, and last year here in 4th grade, she went from never, like, literally, she knocks a vacuum cleaner over and she's upset, like, literally, like, freaking out over writing to enjoying it because she could get her ideas out at a faster pace. Like, that exists. That will be on the documents that they use to write all their writing. Just talk to it. Go into a corner of a room and just do what you have to do. Go in the hallway. Like, and I try to encourage as many kids to use speech to text and text to speech as possible. Again, we first communicated by mouth instead of fingers. Let's use
You know
that.
what's cool about the 2 Candy is then they can use it reverse and listen to what they've
Yeah,
written
yeah,
Yes.
and edit based on
Yes, yes,
hearing
yes,
that. And I like that feature, especially for kids with executive functioning challenges,
Yep.
that process is a block for
Mhm.
them, so I've
It
gone
is.
through the same thing. So that has been a cool
It's the
helpful
speed
tool.
disconnect between getting your ideas
Yeah.
into the paper, and when you handwrite, like, you can go slower, so, you know, that kind of works, but if your handwriting is horrible, and neither you nor us can read it, like, what's the value in that? So, I try to
Again,
push,
that's getting to know that individual student too, and finding out what works best. Majority of the students really do need to handwrite their notes, so,
Yes.
but if we see something that works better, we'll
and
figure that out.
differing by grade level and teacher, to take these focus area assessments, these are the tests that they can take over and over again. I hope they don't, but they can. We require some kind of evidence that you've prepared, and often that evidence is, show me your notes that you've prepared on this topic. So frequently, kids will say like, well, you don't teach me. What does that mean? Does it mean that it has to come out of my mouth, and then you write it on paper, and then therefore I have taught you? Or what if I structured a series of activities that from the beginning to the end, you should understand, you know, what's going on? And so with the focus areas, I'm not explicitly saying every single idea that the kids need to learn. There's a bunch of materials, we'll show you this in a minute, that they can go through and learn at their own pace. So not every single thing that they need to know will come out of a teacher's mouth. And that's part of that self-advocacy part of how do you figure out what's important, what's relevant, what's necessary. And there's a huge amounts of structures that help support that so the kids can see what's going on.
Well, it sounds like the de-emphasizing the focus area value will kind of help, I think, a little bit
Right.
with the perception that those are the end all be all.
Yes,
Right. And those are also things we will like recycle within our projects, you know,
Mhm.
like that content is not, oh, I just saw it there and I'm never gonna see that again, like theme is the first focus area for English, and I think we beat a dead horse with theme, like what's theme, you should know what theme is, blah, 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 like.
Everything we do.
You know,
Yeah.
like you understand, cause we talk about it so much, they have to create a theme, like, so they're not just like, you know, hot potato with that focus area, drop it and done, like we actually use that content, it's just kind of like, well, what's your initial exposure to it and understanding, and then how are you gonna apply that and make something, you know, out of that, essentially.
So is there ever a time where a kid like really does take a final exam? Because so that's what scares me, between 6th grade and 12th grade, they're not practicing final exams, but they still have to take them in college.
So, yes and no. Like, they're gonna be taking state tests out the yin yang. Like, so they'll be taking
Math
large,
tests.
hugely important, like the 9th grade tests, you have to pass them to graduate high school.
Right, but you don't have the kind of feedback that you have on like an exam, you know what I mean?
Well,
That's-
actually, the focus areas are small versions of what they're gonna be practicing in the state test. So if they're struggling with focus areas,
So
if
it's
there's
like, you retake those.
oh, yeah.
You can't retake
But that's
them.
what
The
I'm
math-
looking for something where they don't have to.
The MAP
take the exam.
tests, which students take
Oh,
at
yeah,
least
yeah.
3 times a year,
Yeah.
that is very similar to like a multiple choice or short answer. But on the state tests, a lot of them are extended response now. So you're seeing exactly what you're doing on the state tests in the projects.
I'm just trying to see, like, for 6 years, I'm trying to see, like, I mean, I teach too, this will be my 20th year teaching. I just want to see, like, my daughter, cause she will probably go to college, so I want her to have, of course, they do projects. I was a teacher, I have a master's plus, but like, there are times I still want to take a final exam, and I want my kids to not, because my daughter already freaks out about math testing, cause it takes her 2 hours to take a math test. And state testing is worrisome for her. So I just want her to be able to take tests that she can get that feedback and feel like, okay, I got this. Like, it builds success and it really builds her confidence in taking those tests.
A lot of the AP teachers, so by the time you get up through upper levels of high school, will have tests. I would say I would rather have a conversation with the kid to figure out exactly when they don't know something, instead of waiting a couple weeks till test day, take a test, and then find out what they don't know. Probably take me
I
a
agree.
week to take a
Yeah,
test.
of course.
So like
But
that's.
but life will give them tests.
Yes, and
so-
there, I mean, we think there's enough tests between MAP tests, state tests, AP tests, ACT
Yeah,
tests.
I know, those are all different.
And
Yes, I see where you're going, and so,
The math-
no, I guess it's the short answer, like there's
Well,
art
math-
exams.
Math
has
is,
plenty of tests.
Yes.
there's plenty
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
opportunities where they're doing tests.
Yeah, the math is kind of like a final assessment.
It's a little bit
I get
different,
you.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's
that's
like
kinda
working
what-
out problems, and then some of them are extended response where they're
Yeah.
actually writing a, so
I just
math
wanna
would
put
be a
that
good
practice,
example.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
'cause
yeah.
if she doesn't
Yeah.
do it, it's like, so it's on her head, like, I'm not gonna be able to do it when it comes, or, yeah, things like
Right.
that.
Oh, yeah.
All right, any questions on how, any of this stuff? Had a lot of good questions. All right, where are we going next? I don't remember. All right, so, Operation Advantage, this is more specific for those of you in middle school, because there is no Operation Advantage in high school. But this is the class that is taught by Jeff Hicks. And he, like I said, he's a super awesome rock star. And this is the kind of stuff they go through. They go through, how do you learn how to set a goal? How do you, how do you cooperate? What are all these things mean? How do you take a test? Like, how do you sit down and take a focus area assessment effectively? We have the time and how long it takes for a kid to take a test. Like, oh, I failed to take it again. You took 2 minutes and 32 seconds on that. No, I'm not going to take it again. That was a silly waste of your 2 minutes and 32 seconds. So like, he goes through all these super kind of important, all these soft skills and the social emotional stuff as well. For your 6th grader, if you're having a specific issue, he will know them. Reach out to him and say, hey, Mr. Hicks, what's going on? You know, my kid's not getting this or whatever. He's a great first place to go to. Him, I would say, and the mentor early on in the year. There's the student skills profile, where there's the wheel of 9 skills, and they're broken down by what do they focus on each grade level. 6th grade is communicate, collaborate, create. 7th grade reflect, problem solving, serve, and 8th grade is investigate, innovate, and lead. So I'm pretty certain that Mr. Weir is going to be doing 7th grade again, and Mr. Britton going to do 8th grade again, and they do a lot of cool things. Some projects, it's not on the platform, it's just like neat stuff to kind of like help that student grow. My son really enjoyed Mr. Britton's class last year. He's like, we did really cool stuff. He teaches high school psych, and so he does a lot of neat kind of cool things with the kids there. So this is a class, this goes away in high school. I don't know if we're having TLC this year. I don't know. So there was a high school equivalent kind of where we had like a mentored study hall, but I think due to the lack of space in the building, that might not exist this year. So, any questions about Operation Advantage?
Is that what period do they do that?
One of their
It's
8
one of their
periods, yeah.
schedules,
One of
yeah.
their,
You will
and
see it on there.
so they'll be
Okay.
with Mr. Hicks, 3 days a week in 6th
Mhm.
grade, Mr. Weir, Mr. Britton. And those are the 80-minute chunks.
Got it.
So they do some neat stuff in there.
Mhm.
They do some really, it helps to bring about that maturity.
Can I tell a story?
Yeah, sure.
So Mr. Hicks, and some of you may have been there, I don't know, he came with students, a group of students from his OA class to a board meeting, and they presented one of the projects that they did. I think it would fall into like the kindness, empathy thing, but I feel like the students were allowed to choose what they were gonna work on. I've never cried at a board meeting, like happy tears like that. Let me parenthesize that. Anyhow, so I was like so moved. The kids came in and they picked the thing they were gonna work on, they picked the topics, and it was stuff that meant things to them, like issues that they were concerned about, things that they were really worried about. And as a team, they wrote about these things and like what some of the solutions could be. And it was awesome. So, you know, OA is just a great class for community building, for, you know, all those soft skills that you talked about that, I don't know, it was really awesome. So I'm excited for my sixth grader to have him and have that experience this year, so.
And it kind of takes the edge off the transition from the elementary school to middle school. You just have like this, you know, he's just a chill dude. Like it works really well. I think he has one of the coolest jobs in the district too. Like he has a very, very neat job, so he's a good guy. There is no OA for high school, and 7th and 8th grade is a little bit different, but Mr. Weir and Mr. Britton do plenty of cool stuff. All right, so I meant to delete that slide. All right, so this is the part of our presentation where we want to go into like nuts and bolts. How do I actually click through something? How do I actually figure out what's going on and how do I help my kid? If you can write this down or take a picture, there is a demo site. I don't know if you can use it on phones, but I'm going to show you what it looks like. And it's just demo.summitlearning.org. You don't need to go through the endpoint there. You can please use a fake email address. They're not charging. I don't know why it's on there, but anything with an @ will work. So you can like, you know, what I'm going to put in there. And we're going to go through the demo to kind of show you what it looks like. So this is they're all fake kids. It was created to help teachers understand how to use the platform, or for anyone else who's trying to look at what's going on. So like I said before, there's the big picture, what's going on in the district, with like big picture, and then now we're going to talk about the little picture, like how do I actually see what's going on. We're going to try to focus on a couple things. The weekly view, these are like some strategies. What are these diagnostics focus areas, and where are some of the resources that Lori pointed out before? Everybody get a picture who wants it, or this link will be somewhere. So if we go to the demo, you can see it as a kid, or you can see it as a teacher.
First time when you sign in, you just put a fake email in there too.
Just put anything.
So, I don't know that you can go back because you've already signed in, but the first time you sign in, it's gonna require you to just put in some email.
Just make sure there's an @ sign.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
My
You can put your real
house
one
at
if you want. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, so don't be surprised, you're not gonna first see this, you're gonna see a site where you have to like put a email in.
But none of your work will be saved if you will not actually do projects.
Yeah, don't do any projects.
And you can't, right? All right, so I think Jalen here is like a regular old kid, so we're gonna view this as Jalen. Hopefully, there we go. So when your student opens up their platform, it automatically goes to the weekly view, and I love that it does this. So the weekly view does exactly what it says. It shows all. Let's see if I can make this smaller. It shows all 4 of their core courses that they're in, and then what are their goals for those courses on those days.
Those goals too, your students should be putting those goals in. Those aren't just automatically populated in there, and again, the teachers give directions, put this goal in your week view. Now again, some students like to ignore that, so if you're not seeing that, that's a conversation you should have with your teacher or the mentor, or your student, and find out where's the breakdown happening.
And so it's really nice, because if I'm meeting with a mentee, I can say like, hey, this is something I think you should focus on for the next week. When we're talking together, I can have the kid, usually when they meet, they bring up their computer, we talk. They can go in here, they can click add goal, and then let's say they have to work on a project, well, it's their English project here from story to screen. I can click on the project. You guys probably can't read any of this.
It gives you choices, which is really cool.
So,
for the student, because sometimes they would just put, do project.
yeah.
And it would
Sometimes
be
goals
so,
get
like,
caught up for the
vague.
year.
But these drop-down screens are more specific, and that's what we want them to see, is your goals should be more specific, not just do project, do focus area. Like, no, we want specifically what are you gonna do to help you accomplish that.
It's like a goal saying like, get into college. No, it's a little more than that.
I got like eat food, go to sleep.
Is this
So-
a newer feature then?
This is a
Last
little new.
year.
This is
Okay.
about last year-ish.
Yeah,
So then they can,
this is pretty cool.
You
So
can
for-
tell my kid didn't use it.
you can
Right,
tell,
so these are what things you wanna, talk to them about.
Okay.
full disclosure, I've never been a goal setter in my entire life. I just kind of hope everything that's jumbled up in here makes it out to what I have to do until I see the amazing power. I work with a team of highly organized women who tell me what to do, and it works really well. And I'm like, wow, that's really more efficient. That's a really better use of my time when I do that. So like, I'm a
Brings
convert.
comic relief,
Like,
so.
I'm a convert. So, if you click on the checkpoint, what checkpoint you need to work on, let's say they need to work on their literature circle, create goal. Now that kid, Jalen, has added a goal for Monday. You can go into the future and say, oh, I need to add a goal here. On Mondays,
You can add Saturday and Sunday on here too. There's like, I forget how to do it, but I know that there's a way to add, if they want the goal to be done on a Saturday and Sunday, you can show them.
This is good for incentivizing, like, you
Oh,
know,
show
maybe
weekend.
instead of
Yes.
like looking at yellows and reds and all of that jazz, maybe you looking at the goals that were set and kind of.
It's not quite as overwhelming.
clean the
Yes.
kitchen. Look, you can make them do, you know, those kind of goals.
Do you find that the kids need paper calendars as well to keep themselves organized? That was on the
We
supply
we
list?
work in tandem with like, you know,
What works best?
agendas or planners.
Mhm.
Some of them really do need to write it down, and we just say, okay, we'll take out your planner and, you know, write it down. There's another place
Typically,
where
the
that is.
students who write it down are in my experience, are the ones who are a little more organized.
They come
They
prepared.
come and they're like, I use this, I depend on this, and so that gradual release, you don't really need to do that, cause you see them really doing that.
Right.
But the cool thing is they can actually mark it now off, when it's
Yeah.
green, they'll just put a big old check on this, and so, that's a nice.
And we do
feature.
help teach them how to do these goals, and, on Mondays in science, we go through and let's say that your project's gonna be due on Friday. On Thursday, Friday I have them put project due, and then Thursday night, their goal is, complete whatever project it was, anything left that they have to do, they need to do it, at the beginning of the year, and actually, a lot of the way through. I go around and they literally have to show me on their computer, or I can pull it up on mine, but before they're allowed to leave my room, they have to show me that they've written those goals down, cause otherwise we have someone, oh yeah, I wrote it down, and then I go look, I'm like, no, you didn't, cause it's a blank box. So, we can teach them how to do those goals, and we actually make sure that the due dates that are for everybody, that they put down on their goals for
My
that week.
computer's frozen.
You want me to?
Yeah, you can show the demo. Like Mrs. Connor just said, a lot of us use a Google slide presentation where we'll say like, this week in biology, this week English 9, this week in English 6, or today in, and that Google slide, I strongly suggest to kids, they bookmark that. I would love for them to email it to their parents like early, so that you can see like what had happened in class today. This is an unbelievably awesome tool for kids who miss school. You're like, oh, what happened today? Oh, I can go to the Today in Biology slide and see what Bruning's class did today in biology, and then prepare for that. So that's the way we have found is like the easiest way to say like what's going on today, because there is like 6th grade might have more like this what's going on this month or this week. There's not a lot of that in high school, so that's kind of how kids see those kinds of things. So ask how much of the 6th grade team has that, Kristen?
Just
Just
like
me.
today.
Today in
Today.
Science 6,
Yeah.
I'm the only one that does that,
Well-
but Jeff goes through in Operation Advantage, he goes through every single one of their classes and does have a PowerPoint that shows that.
What they're doing.
I'm gonna log in I'm gonna make my own email.
So this is how your screen's gonna come up, like this. You're gonna see this first screen if you go on the demo site.
Oh, it's invalid. myhouse.net.
Or dot net, let's see. There we go.
There we go. Has to be a .com.
This is gonna be fake too, just like literally fake.
It doesn't matter, just blah, 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 blah. It really doesn't matter.
I have a
Yeah.
question. What do you recommend or expect as far as then, doing classwork versus homework? Doing part of the summit at home?
The short story is there's always homework. There's always things to work on.
Always something to do.
Unless they have like 100% in every class. What I expect, and what I think a lot of teachers, is complete a checkpoint for your project if you haven't finished it in class. And so like that's, because since a checkpoint is a part of a project, which is where I'm gonna show you. So the projects are all broken down, they're chunked
Right.
like into different parts. So if Mrs. Connors gave you some class, and work in class, like create a graph, evaluate a graph, whatever it is, and you don't have that done, that should probably be done by the next day in class. If you are caught up with your project work, then it's prepare for focus area assessments. And the focus area assessments are like the Unity, quizzy type things for the content side of class. So let's say you got all those done. Fantastic, right? We'll show you this kid Ali here. He's all green. You see what that means? Like all green, kids they high five each other for being all green. It's the greatest. Then you can go back and revise work that's not, perfect. Keep going back and trying to make
Higher
it.
grades.
Which is a super hard thing to get kids to do, especially the boys. Right? Super hard to be like, well, you could make that better. Like they'll do it with free throws. They'll practice free throws all day long, right? But why not paragraphs? So that's kind of, there's always stuff to do. The first year we did this, we stupidly said, there's never any homework. Real dumb. Like there's never any specific homework that's absolutely due the next day. Like that's super rare. Like because everything kind of has some flexibility built into it. But there is always stuff they can work on.
And
So
revising
my-
and editing is really important too. I didn't mean to
Oh,
interrupt.
you're fine.
But that's something they can go back. Do you have any teacher comments? Can you make this better? Can you, you know what I mean? Look over your work, revise, edit.
And they do have independent reading, so they'll obviously do that every night. And then as far as working towards focus areas, we try to tell them, like, do something each night. Maybe do your vocab for the structure of life science area tonight, and then tomorrow, maybe do your KWL chart, something like that. So there's always something that they can work on.
So my student is very not motivated to do his own schoolwork.
I have
He
one like
definitely
that.
is that you need to push him. And he had Miss Wallace last year, and she came from the middle school.
Yes.
So her advice to me was just like take the week and like Monday pick science, like take
Yeah.
a different subject for every day of the week.
Right.
And like spend like Monday's our day to do math in the summit for 45 minutes a day or an hour or whatever. So then I'm seeing every subject every week.
Yes,
Is that better?
that's perfect.
Is that good?
Mhm.
There's a lot of kids who use strategies like that, and I think they're super effective.
Okay.
Our situation was that he found ways to get his homework done before he came home. So we never had homework, and that was actually constant throughout his elementary experience. So I'm curious, is it possible if you have a student that's motivated, like literally one time I saw him doing his homework on the sidewalk because he didn't want to bring it into the house. Like he wanted, I think he has a thing about this is where school doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You know,
We have
and-
kids that'll do it during lunch.
Yep.
We have
Yeah.
kids that'll come in for office
Yeah.
hours
Yep,
to
just to
work
see
on
it
it
get
at
done.
school,
Yep.
Yeah.
just so that they can do it at school. So, yes.
So it's possible to
Oh, absolutely.
perform
Absolutely.
within the bounds of the school day.
One of our most successful students last year, I was his mentor, I kicked him into advanced English because he had those issues. I'm like, dude, and he told me he never did work at home, and he did unbelievably well. Like this kid, his transformation between middle school and high school was out of this world. And he's like, I never do homework at home. I just use my school time very efficiently. Like, I don't use school time efficiently. I'm always talking, which you can probably tell, right? So like, I have to go in early or stay late to get done what I need to get done because that's how I work effectively. I don't have to get my kids home from school because I live right over there and they go here and there, right? So like, we personalize it for what the kid needs. I will say though, that it's probably unlikely to get A's without doing outside stuff. And I'll kind of show you why I think that's the case in a minute. We don't go over 100% of all of the stuff. There is some independent learning that the kid needs to learn, and that's built into the system. Less in 6th grade than there is in high school, but certainly some.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing where you want them to you need to learn how to do some of this on your own. That's kind of where that comes from.
Well, that might work for him, because I think it's possible he was avoiding doing it with me. You know what I mean, like, you don't understand,
Yeah.
you know, that kind of stuff, so.
Elaine, you and I can talk. I feel like you and I have similar children.
Yeah.
You know, from having students that have been in it for a couple of years, there's definitely sort of ebbs and flows, just like with your own work, of when they have a lot of work to do and less work to do. And my own children, one of them in particular, really did find it motivating to work during that mentor time, work when they had time given in class, because they want to come home and not have anything to do. And they did have work at home as well, but I think, that that's how your students operate.
Like, I like this because as your kids get into 7th through 12th grade, there's lots of activities they can do. The beautiful thing about Fairview is it's small. If you want to do everything, you can, right? Like, you can do whatever you want to do. You can play in a team, you can be in band, choir, whatever. If I have something that's absolutely due Wednesday, like, you probably know about it a couple days ahead of time, you might not just get it Tuesday and have it due Wednesday. So there's a little bit of that flexibility. And for all those kids, like, the kids who are in stuff are in, like, everything. You know, if you're in band and orchestra, you're probably in theater, like you do a bunch of different things. This gives a little more leeway, so you don't have to do it the day right then, you have a couple days. But if, like, the first year said, there's never any homework, well, yeah, I don't give you something Tuesday that's due Wednesday. I give you something Monday that's due by next Monday, like those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So I would strongly, like, I love the idea of half an hour a day on something. Like, we try to set those, in my house, we try to set those limits. I try to have my wife go through it so she's not like, knows something like I do. Does it make sense from a non-somebody person? So she works with the kids on that stuff. So this is the year view. Kids will brag about their year view. Kids will probably make fun of other kids about their year view. This shows your overall progress. Again, full disclosure, I'm a teacher in this system. I have never logged in as the parent view. I only have my children open up their platform and say, show me what you got. And so when I look at this, green means good. So green means good. We'll focus just on the top 2 courses here so we can kind of see what's going on. So this student has all 4 7th grade classes. This top row, this is the projects. So in our school now, this is worth 80% of their grade. If you want nuts and bolts on how that grade works, I'll go over that. We'll go over that in a minute. The power focus areas are worth 14, and these additional focus areas are worth 6. You'll hear this said a million times. Additional focus areas are not extra credit. They are a normal part of the grade. The name additional focus area is lousy. We can't change that. But if you don't do any of these, you lose out on 6% of your grade, which means it's really, really rough to get an A if you don't do the additional focus areas.
Andy, can I ask a question here? Is it your recommendation that when they finish a focus area, they immediately go to additional as opposed to playing Pac-Man and going across the row?
Personally, this was my issue with Spence. He just wanted to plow through these as fast as possible. I don't think it's a good strategy. I think, and that's like, I know they're called focus areas, but they shouldn't be your area of focus. Your focus should be on projects, right? So what I would, like, the kids love these. They love, I call them, probably incorrectly, the opiates of Fairview schools right now, because you get one done, you're like, yes, I passed. Like, it's a very quick high that doesn't really last. This line is gonna move. This line's it moves with the date. This is the dreaded blue line. The kids hate it.
The focus areas are also aligned to the project.
To the project.
So the skills that they're learning in that specific focus area underneath, you're going to see that specific skill work done in the project as well. They will probably see it again later in projects, but it specifically goes with that one.
So to answer your question, Kelly, I would work vertically instead of linearly.
Okay.
I would work this way and get these things. Now there are kids, like there are some kids who can pass a focus area with half an hour of work. Boom, they got it. And that's great. Like, that's kind of what we're doing here. Like, if you don't need, like, if you understand sense patterns, if you're an avid reader, like, this is probably not hard for you to pass pattern 7s. If you don't ever read, this could be hard. You may need some more time in that. So I would strongly suggest that kids work vertically. The challenge focus areas are worth 0% of your grade, and we give those to kids who are just like, so, like, I don't know what this one is actually, I don't want to speak on 7th grade English, but like, those aren't really calculated into the course grade.
Right, those are like later,
Can I
when
ask
they're
one
done with
question, and
everything.
if I'm jumping the gun to your presentation, because we haven't done rubrics and cognitive skills. and all that,
Correct.
But I'm just gonna slip this question in, because I think
Sure.
I'm missing that one. If if a cognitive skill has a low grade and it's yellow because of that, if you're doing an additional focus area, will that bump your cog skill up?
No.
You'll just have to go back and revise in projects, okay,
Yeah,
that's.
so-
Or
I've been
we'll
wondering
touch
about
that
this question.
cognitive skill again in a later project, and your higher score will replace the grade on the first
Okay,
one.
thank you, I was gonna miss the one where you guys talked about that, so I had.
No, that's fine.
Yeah,
We can
of
go
course.
through that. So there, if you can see, there are usually 5-ish projects per course. The teacher assigns these when the teacher is ready for kids to work on them. So this is the projects on the house on Mango Street. So these are all the different projects. And again, this top row is 80% of the kids' grade. So that's really what they're gonna work on. Majority, if I click on a project here, we can see what it looks like. So this is this student here. These are the checkpoints for this project. So there's always an overview. Kids go, I don't know what this project's about. Well, did you read the overview? No. You read the overview. Like, it's amazing how words help.
There's a lot of good information
There's,
on that.
everything's here. Like
Yes.
everything is
The
here.
standard that it's aligned to, the specific focus areas you're gonna work on.
I think ninth grade boys are like the low of rational thought. So, so these are all the different things they'll have to do. Almost always, these are in-class activities that are teacher-driven. That we will say, today we do checkpoint 1. If a kid rocks checkpoint 1, they get it done in half the time. Like, all right, we'll take a look at checkpoint 2. So these are parts of the project that end up building towards the final product. The final product are the starred ones. So this one here has 3. There were 3 things. There's a journal, a draft, and a presentation. So these are the chunks that the kids will work on in class to finish this. If they are red, that means that the teacher has indicated you need to fix this. So the whole system is on a red, yellow, green kind of system. Green means good to go. Keep on rocking.
I just wanna mention too, on the project checkpoints, sometimes the teacher will have all of them open and they can look at all of them and it's fluid and they can do them, no big deal. Sometimes the teacher won't open it for that student quite yet because it wasn't introduced to that student yet. So they need to like go back and revise this checkpoint 2 before they go on to 3 or 4.
And
So
we have cases where someone's rocking through the first few,
Then
and
we'll
I
open
have an
it for that
individual conversation with that student. I said, okay, I'll unlock it for you so you can get working while everyone else is finishing, the previous one, which is really cool because otherwise, that kid would typically be just sitting like, and that's when they get into, their technology or something like that. But we're able to actually meet them where they're at and just give them what they need right then and there. Click, click, click. You're in, and then they can start working on the next thing.
I just didn't want that to be a surprise, because I know some students would go home and say, well, I can't get into, or you know what I mean, but there's a reason. And again, reach out to that teacher and ask if you're unsure.
In math, a lot of these checkpoints are worksheets. They use traditional math, they're working on stuff. That's where, like, Mr. Garcia, 7th grade math, they take pictures of their work, and then he's got a whole slideshow presented of all the kids who photobombed the pictures, which is absolutely hilarious. It's really neat. Like, the kids gamify this. Like, you want to be all green. Like, it's bragging rights. The kids, I never thought in a million years that a pointless system would have kids so motivated to just be successfully completed. No, there's no points with this. We say your grade is, it's acceptable, it's almost acceptable, it's not acceptable. It works. It's unbelievable how well the red, yellow, green system works.
A lot of times, like me and Angie use it as a tracking system too. So if they didn't submit the work, it goes red automatically, and they hate that. They hate seeing the red, but it is an immediate flag for them, and for me to see that work was not done or completed to satisfaction. So you need to get on it, right? And as a parent, if you see that red, typically that's where I'd say you go to the reds to figure out, what is it that they didn't complete, or what is it that they didn't get that we flagged it red.
Or when they're asking for homework, or you're
Yep.
saying, do you have any homework?
Mhm.
Well, yeah, you obviously have homework, cause you have something red there, that something needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
And you can go in and view the comments. This is also kind of where you were asking before, like, where are those, tests? This is kind of like, the extended response portion of those, where they're practicing them. We're gonna give them feedback on it, and they're gonna know, did I do it right, or what did I do wrong, and what can I do to fix that? And then they have the opportunity to fix that and make it better.
I'm gonna go through checkpoint. I don't know this. Do you know this product at all? No. All right. We'll just click on the first one, see what it kind of looks like. So within a checkpoint, you can see these are the number of days that this should be worked on in class. Some projects have this, some projects don't. So here's the overall document the kid would be working on, so reading and analysis. And then there are resources. There are resources underneath there that the teacher has selected that are helpful to complete this project. Most likely, some of these will be covered by the teacher saying, hey, let's look at this right now. Let's look at, one of these right now. And then there's some others that just might be there for kids who need extra help, or who want to be like, just dive in and be extra awesome to go for the good grade. So almost always when you click on these here, it opens up a document. Now in the past, this was Google Docs. and it was annoying because you wouldn't have access to your kid's Google Docs, which is super frustrating, like to ask your kid for permission, like it seems backwards to me. But now Summit has created their own document system, which can only have one kid at a time. So they can't have like 13 kids on a document chatting and all those kinds of silly things.
Can't share it.
They'll find some other way to do those things, but like they can't do it through here. So, and it's a very, very simplified version of how can we do work. Teachers will be able to put comments on here. This won't really work because I'm a kid right now. But when a teacher puts a comment on here and then they post it, for those of you who use Google Docs for, it will never go away. So that if I've given kid a feedback, it will be there forever.
You can't
So-
resolve it. Remember how you could resolve it and it would disappear?
No
And then
more
the
resolving.
teacher or the parent would be
It's
like,
here forever.
I thought that, you know, so now there's a running like record of that conversation between student, teacher, maybe parent, you know what I mean? We can all like see that and it won't ever disappear.
And so when the kid feels though they're done with the work, there's a button down here called Request Feedback, and they submit it. Say, hey, I think I'm good.
Oh, you're gonna have a revolt of children because
That'll
of
be
this
sad.
feature.
I mean, that'd be sad.
Because we'd have to go through the revision history to
Yeah,
figure out
it
what
was-
we need to delete off of
it
there
was-
now.
I do think
Oh, it's
though,
super.
like with our group of like last year, I don't think that was nearly as much of an issue as it has been in the previous years. I think they're getting that we need to keep that record so we know what we told you that you didn't do and then you submitted it
And
again.
we wanna see growth, like,
Yeah.
we wanna remember, oh, your mistake used to be this, look, you're not doing it anymore. That's a great way for your student to see they're growing in their skills.
But then how will we know, I mean, that it's no longer an active
So I would,
live?
I would probably. delete
I'd
it.
go underneath there, we can get rid of them.
So
If
you
do-
will delete them as
yes.
you
We
believe they're
can-
resolved,
yes.
the kids can't
The
resolve
kids,
them.
which is, because I've told a kid 100 times, but like, your hypothesis is no good, you need to have a proper structure for our hypothesis. Well, I don't know where that comment is, well, because you resolved it.
Okay, so as soon as you feel it's
As
been
soon as-
satisfactorily met, you will resolve it.
Or we can even just put a comment to the comment that says, this is good now.
Okay.
So at least there's a running log. And the kids don't like, none of us like to be reminded of our failures. Like,
Right,
that's
that's
not-
why I don't want it hanging
Yeah,
out there,
so-
but that's a great feature.
Yeah,
I have a question. So when you hit request feedback back there, it also said ask for help?
Yep.
So
Yes.
So if they hit ask for help, what happens? Like
They should-
what shows up for you guys and then how does that?
underneath that checkpoint, when, from our view, I can show you our view if you wanna see it, it will say so-and-so has asked for help.
Okay.
Like, so,
And there'll be a comment there, like a question, and we had one student that really liked.
One
to use the
student,
feature, really liked to use it, but it was helpful for us because he indicated, I have a question on how to do this.
and it was
then
weird
I could,
because
you know,
that kid wasn't in the middle school. Like, he was a kid who came over from St. A's to the 9th grade,
Mhm.
and he was the only kid in 9th grade who used the ask for help feature. I'm like, dude, why isn't everyone doing this? Like, it's really helpful.
So to build on that, so let's say they're at home, they're doing homework,
Mhm.
they go to submit and they ask for help, then the next day when they come in class, you guys will see that and then
Yeah.
then you can address that with them like the next day
Or,
of class, so
if
then
we
they
check
can
it,
move
you happen to
forward.
check it later that evening, we can
Mhm.
get to
Okay.
that right then, you know, it's
Okay.
really whenever we're into that document, you know.
Right.
Typically, it's the next day, but if I happen to be on those documents that night and I see that question, then I'll answer it, and usually I'll send an email, like, I'll follow up with you in class or something like that, and then, you know, I can clarify it that way too, but.
I would say,
Pretty awesome.
since we don't see kids every day, like a 24-hour turnaround on those things is, like, I try to make sure that I'm prepared for the kids I see Wednesday,
Oh, wait,
you know.
I'm not thinking
Yeah,
about
exactly.
that. That's right.
Yeah.
So I just don't wanna
Like,
like
you don't-
set
Yeah.
unreal,
Right.
I don't wanna set like unreal expectations, so, which is actually nice from our side of view, like I only have to prepare to like help half the kids on Tuesday through Friday, so I can like really know what they need. So if you make a request if you're in my class on Tuesday, you don't understand it, my goal is to make sure that I'm ready to help you with that issue on Thursday when I see you
Yeah.
the next class time. So this is what this is what a lot of their work will be. That'll be these checkpoints. If they think it's no good, they can revoke their checkpoint and they can take it back. And so this is where they should be spending the bulk of their time. Mr. Vicka has said if projects are 80% of the grade, we should be spending 80% of the time in class on projects because that's much more important. Well, he said that specifically for 70, but I'm presuming he's gonna say that for.
Yeah.
for
That's like in an English class, I typically would spend, you know, the first, 85, so maybe the first hour-ish, a little bit more than that, give them a break, and then after that break, typically we go into the PLT where we work on focus areas and things like that, so.
Personalized learning time.
Yes, sorry, I know acronyms. So that way, they know that that's kind of the period where then they start to work on either the stuff that we just did, if they're caught up with focus areas, or they can take assessments and take notes and that sort of thing. and I feel like that's worked with my students in English, but, you know, teachers might structure that time a little bit differently, but I do think that we spend a majority of our time doing the activities, doing the project work, and then having that time either after or before, whichever the teacher prefers, to work individually on those things.
Also during that, when we're doing these activities, it's very likely that the teacher will group kids up by like, we can use MAP scores for reading levels, we can use scores on previous assessments, be like, hey, like you've been rocking, like I really want you to try this. We can actually, with these checkpoints, we used to call them mild, medium, and spicy, so we do that. Like, I can target, I can like, well, you're doing really well, I want you to push yourself on this one. Why don't you try the spicy, version of this checkpoint? It's gonna help you be more thorough. So we can break kids up by who needs what for this, and the kids don't know. I can assign this half of the room mild, medium, and spicy, and no one knows. Like, no one knows who got the white sheet, yellow sheet, pink sheet. Like, it's all, and that differentiation piece, again, is super huge. It allows me to give kids what they need. If a kid's not a strong reader, I'll give them a very pictorial view of whatever the activity is. All right, we can go. Do we want to go into scores now, or do you want to save this for a later day, or anyone? I got nothing to do today.
I think there's a session, I think this is supposed to be more of an overview, but I think there's a session where we're gonna get into the nitty gritty of scores. We'll have more time to break that down and talk about that.
Can you guys touch on if you have a couple points of things that have changed, have you hit on the major changes from last year, so parents who have done it for a couple of years know what to do?
The docs is the best change. A lot of the changes are teacher side changes.
Okay.
So, and they speak to just what I was talking about, where we can much more easily group kids to make workshops of like, how do I help, this group of kids who are struggling with so-and-so, how do I help this group of kids? And the beauty of this is it allows me to be super efficient with my time. Like, I don't have to go through a grade book and like average, okay, what group of kids is not doing well? Like, it's, ta-da, it'll be there, so.
And the kid knows too, because it's so transparent on both ends, the kid knows that they're gonna need help with X or Y, or, they didn't pass this assessment, so they need another, go through with the teacher on that content, which is awesome. They know painfully where they're at just as much as we do, just as much as the parents do, as long as, they're working within, looking at their progress, typically.
This is the screen. You asked me like, how would I know if a kid wanted some help or something? This is what it looks like from our view. So this is a project, this is a checkpoint. I told Harry he was good to go here. Zach is still working on something. Karen has said, hey, I need some help. This kind of time requested, we don't want, like, our goal shouldn't be a week. Like, it should take a week to get back to a kid. This is, the timely feedback makes this program work. If there isn't timely feedback, it's a struggle. So that's, the kids will turn something in, they're like, did you get what I turned in? I'm like, you turned that in at 1 a.m., it's 8 a.m. No, I did not get a chance to look at that yet. Give me a day, So like, this is what we would see, and if a kid asked for help, it would say right here, just requested help. And then I could go, okay, let's see what would work.
So Annie, one thing that you brought up that I think is a really interesting point, you had mentioned that even though you're a teacher, you always look at your student view, you sit down with your kids and you look at, can you explain why you feel that's beneficial as opposed to going in through parent view?
In the past, you didn't have access to the kids' documents in the parent view, which was a super, like, I couldn't see the actual work. So now that's taken care of with the notebook, it's called notebooks instead of docs now. And I just think it is more like, with my kids, I'm letting you know that I'm looking. Like, so it's very, very direct. Like, I'm sitting down with you, we're having a conversation about where are you at. Avery does not like the fact that I know this super well. Like, he's gonna be in 9th grade, he's gonna have the 2 of us for class next year. Like, he's like, oh, like, too bad. Like, I want you to be successful, somebody use every advantage I have. Spencer loves it. Spencer loves bragging about his platform. Like, Kristen can certainly attest, like, that's the kind of kid he is. So I like doing that, so I see what they're seeing. I'm not getting a different, slightly, skewed view. I see it as they see, so they know, like, I know that they have to finish such and such.
Do you have recommendations for parents who may struggle getting their kid to sit with them and open their platform? Not that
I take away their phone. Like, I'm a huge proponent of, you don't do what I say, you don't have a cell phone. Like, it's like, that's my go-to.
So threats, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Just like in
I went to Montana for 2 weeks, so my kids were off the grid. So like, like, to me, like, we have to teach them how to be responsible. Like, that's the annoying parent side of this, is it's not just, this is my work, let me get this done. We're trying to put a little bit more of the responsibility on the kid to know what they're doing. Now, it's tempered by grade level. So, I would get the parent login, and go through, to start that, because it will work. It'll be better than no information.
We get text messages too, I don't know if some of you guys know
Or
this or not.
emails, depending on how you have it set.
And if you've got lots of kids in the district, like Brian Weir last year had 4 children in the district, so he got lots of text messages.
The other part I would recommend too is starting early with your student, having these conversations about the platform. Let them show you it. They're actually really excited that they know something you don't know at this point. So having those conversations with them before it becomes a sticking point with them that, okay, now I'm behind on stuff and I don't want mom to see this. Have the easy conversations with them ahead of time where they're walking you through and showing you like, hey, this is what we did in science today, or this is what I'm working on now, before it becomes that threatening conversation.
Best intentions, and then you get to that point,
Yeah.
right, where it's red, and they're like, oh, or they like
Right.
screen capture good stuff, and like,
They missed that little part. Kind of there.
But I think all of those issues are completely outside Summit.
yeah, oh, for sure.
Oh, that's kids.
One-
That's
This is kids.
One of the things that we would like to do is, since parents are used to Power School, is to get staff to put grades on Power School. Like, if you're the kind of person who just wants a letter grade, let's do at least 8 times a year, like, a midterm and a quarter grade. For those of you, this is a huge giant can of worms, grades don't end until the end of the year. There is no averaging of grades in middle school and high school. It is, you have until June 11th this year to be awesome, unless you're a senior, then you get.
But you can always see what their current grade would be
Yeah.
if grades went out today.
If grades ended today,
Right. This
there's
is what you would have.
a way to figure that out, so.
What kind of time would that take from the teachers? I mean, would that be a lot of work on the teachers?
Zero
It'll take-
work.
I
It's
have a
automatically
split screen,
calculated.
Pull up all the grades.
There's the grades right here.
So
Maybe-
there are these 3 views
Like
for the
the
kids.
parents can do that?
To transcribe it.
We would do
No.
that we would report it within Power School, so
Yeah.
if you checked Power School, you would see a letter grade, but it would
That's-
literally be whatever that is.
Whatever's on there.
Is that the end of the quarter or just the end of the year?
Or
On
that's-
Power
I-
School, the end of the
Yeah.
year, on here, every minute that you would log in,
So
It's
like,
there,
at the
and
end
the-
of the quarter, we could email the teacher and say, can I have an update on grades?
No,
no, it's not
our
like
hope
this.
is that
Oh,
we,
can see it.
the kid can see
you
it.
can see the grades
Oh,
anytime you
okay.
want.
Yeah.
Like, I can show you the grades if you want. So there's these
Okay.
3 things. There's the weekly view, which we talked about, that's where your goals are. There's the year view, which shows all of the courses. And then the progress view, this view that shows the grades. This is awesome in a number of ways, because it has like a running commentary of everything that's been graded and what teachers have said and what you've turned in. My favorite view of these kind of things is it also shows what they haven't done. If they're supposed to have done a checkpoint, you're like, where's checkpoint 3? Oh, I turned it in. No, you didn't. Like, the computers don't forget. So, but you can click on a class and click on English, and it'll give me, ta-da, this is the grade. It breaks it down by each of the different parts. What are you doing? Like, this kid, Ali, is a rock star, and so Ali works ahead. At Gillish, you've been using like skills-based, it's not competencies, whatever based, like same kind of idea. That's how the grading things work. That's a huge conversation. I don't think we'll have time to go into now. But like, that's how you're graded, like on these kinds of things here. So it's all broken down. The math is not easy to calculate on your own, so you don't ever have to do it. It's just you click on each class and it can show you like, how are you doing.
It's very comprehensive.
It can also change unbelievably quickly, because if, like, for a quarter grade, that's a snapshot. Like, why is Tuesday so much more important than Wednesday? That's an arbitrary decision that doesn't make a lot of sense. So if I look at this student's grades here, so this is, I'm still on Jalen, I don't want to
There
be.
you go.
I wanted to be on somebody else. Here we go, here's, this is Xenia. So if I go to her, or him, I don't know, Xenia's. This right here, this person is struggling. I can see where they're behind. They're doing okay on projects, they're behind in their focus areas. So mentors see this, parents can see this, teachers see this, and we use this kind of data is no one has to generate it, it's just automatically done. And so that's where I can spend more time teaching than managing data.
So So your point about the power schools for parents who are just not comfortable with Summit, yeah.
And that's, it's like, to me, like, that has been a constant comment from the inception of all this, is like, I just wanna know how my kid's doing. And they're used to power school. So I don't think it would be too much work, like, this is Andy Bruning speaking here, not like the school district. I don't think it'd be too much work to put on midterm and quarter grades, but remember, those don't get averaged. Like, you can go D, A by the end of the year. That's perfect. I wanna know how much you've rocked by the end of the year. So, and that's easy for power school to do. I mean, it's called power school because it's powerful.
So that goes with the mindset change, which we're trying to shift, this idea of I may not have it right now, I may not have mastered it right now. And I think what's changed in all of this, I know for me as a parent, is the language that we use with our kids. It's not, you're never gonna understand this because you didn't get it, it's just you don't understand it right now. You're gonna keep working at
Growth
it.
mindset.
Yeah, exactly, and
Yeah.
I think for us, the hardest thing is to change our language with the teachers and the students who are working with these concepts every day, but we're not necessarily.
The kids will adapt faster than they, because they're doing it every day. Like, and that's scary. Like, that's scary. I totally see that. Like, the kid will understand this better than you do in the beginning. Now, if you have 5 kids, I'm sure you'll rock it, by the end, right? So, and I think it works though. Like, I don't know if we have that official state data yet. Last year was the first year that 9th grade, we got more than 80% on all the state tests. And I don't think it's the first time in a long time that we've got that kind of data. And I think it's because these kids that we had last year were doing this for 2 years prior. They understand the growth mindset. They understand how do we get there, so.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you all for
Yes,
coming.
thanks for coming.
There is a PowerPoint